Squier Debut Telecaster Part 2, Max Upgrades, Max Ridiculousness. At the end of the last video on the channel where I reviewed the Squier Debut Telecaster, I said I'd complete the following upgrades to the guitar in a video. Replace the tuners with GraphTec Ratio Tuners. Replace the nut. Condition the Indian Laurel fretboard. Install a new set of Fender Vintera 50s Telecaster Alnico pickups. I mistakenly called them Alnico 5, but they're not. Build a custom modern wiring harness with quality components, and install the Bigsby B5 tremolo system on the guitar using the factory bridge. The body and the neck have good bones. This inexpensive, affordable little guitar makes for a very economical modding platform for projects. I pulled the neck from the guitar so it was easier to work on the neck and the body separately. Installing the GraphTech Ratio Tuners was easy enough. I removed the old tuners and then needed to use the InvisoMatch Mounting Plates that are supplied with the tuners and that match the guitar's original tuner holes. This made the tuner replacement process go really quick with no need for drilling. So I tried to replace the guitar's nut with a GraphTech Tusk XL standard Fender nut and found that it's not a match. I'll later take a bone nut blank and make a new nut for the guitar. Using the Monte's Montepresso that I have, I conditioned the Indian Laurel fretboard. I like using this stuff because it'll take a Palfaro or Indian Laurel fretboard, darken it, make it kind of smoother, and it'll actually end up looking somewhat like a rosewood, at the very least looking better, not as dry. I left the conditioner on the fretboard for a couple hours while I worked on other parts of the project. I had recently purchased a brand new set of Fender Vintera 50s vintage Telecaster pickups. The neck pickup is an Alnico 2 magnet driven pickup, and the bridge pickup is built upon Alnico 3 magnets. I've heard these pickups in a Vintera 50s Telecaster and I really like them, but I had yet to install them in a build. For less than $100 per set, they're a pretty good deal. The wiring harness that I built is a modern Telecaster design. It is made up of two CTS 250K solid shaft pots, Oak Bigsby 3-way pickup selector switch, and a .047 UF capacitor. There is one pot as the volume control, and the rear pot is the tone control. This is the pot that the .047 capacitor is attached to. The holes for the pot shafts on the guitar's original control plate were way too small, and I did not feel like drilling them out, so I ended up replacing the control plate with one that I had that had standard US hole sizing. The installation and alignment of the Bigsby B5 was where I spent most of the time in the modifications. I took my time, and I did not want to make a mistake. This is one of those times where measuring twice, drilling the hole once is the best credo. I didn't have any string handy like what normally comes with the Bigsby kit, so I used two small gauge guitar strings to help me align the B5 bridge with the rest of the guitar. I threaded two guitar strings to the two outside post and saddles, all the way to the neck, where then I threaded them through the low E and high E tuners. Then I would move the guitar around to different angles so I could be sure that I was aligning everything properly. The guitar's original top loader bridge is difficult enough for me to string through the holes and up through the saddles. Now add in the complexity of also threading the guitar strings through the Bigsby as well, and you have a really difficult guitar to restring. What I found was it was easier to feed the bridge first and then pull the string back and thread through the Bigsby. I used a pair of long needle nose pliers to put a nice round bend in the string before wrapping around the rear post of the Bigsby. Then while holding the string tight, I fed the string through the tuner and wound the string tight. Once I got this system down, it went pretty fast on the first 2 or 3 strings. I lost the screws for the bridge a long time ago, so I used standard bridge screws for Telecasters that I would normally install a vintage Telecaster bridge with. To center the pilot hole, I used a Vicks bit. Once I had a good center hole, I then used a 1/8 inch drill bit and finished drilling the 4 holes to the proper depth that I had measured. Vicks bits are used mainly for drilling the center hole in door and cabinet hinges. The bit is inside a spring-loaded sleeve that rests against the round edges of the hole in the Bigsby, centering the bit perfectly. You can pick up the bits on Amazon for less than $10, and I use them all the time when I install any type of a bridge on a guitar. The last thing I needed to do to the original factory bridge was enlarge the string holes in the back of the bridge. The strings were rubbing and therefore would be binding. Once I drilled the string holes out to a larger size, the strings seemed to pass through unhindered. For the subject of angle of string break with the bridge and height of the saddles on this bridge, it more than makes the angle break needed. The only thing I'm left with as a concern about the entire setup is the string separation is different at the bridge than it is on the Bigsby. The Bigsby is a little narrower by a small amount, causing the strings to kind of be in a fan shape. I did this installation as an experiment. I saw a luthier had done it to an Affinity Tele with the same bridge, and the guitar was for sale on Reverb. I was able to ask him some questions about how he had done it. I'm just having fun and experimenting on a $119 guitar. I do not really recommend you copy me on this part of the installation with a B5 with your guitar unless you really know what you're doing or really don't care about messing up the guitar. There's one website that talks about installing a Bigsby incorrectly and that it'll permanently F up your guitar forever. I kind of chuckle when I see this. It's kind of a dire warning. It's mostly true, kind of. There's no screw hole that you really can't plug with a dowel rod and then put the guitar back to its original configuration. Yes, you may have visible dowel rod plugs, but the guitar will function. I'm just saying. I know I sound kind of cavalier on this, but after you do things repeatedly over and over again, you kind of lose the fear of doing them. After the Bigsby was installed and everything buttoned up, I checked the guitar plugged into my workbench amp, and everything worked the way I had hoped. Pretty damn cool looking little affordable guitar after the project.